Here is another Amazon. Well, I don't know that it's really Amazon, but you can get it through Amazon, and I think you can probably get it through other sites as well. But this is something very similar to the last yarn advent calendar I did, the one for $20 from Amazon. This is very similar to that. This is very much in that same price range. I've seen these go for between $20 and $40-ish. This one is a little different. So I did purchase this off of Amazon, but the company I purchased it through, I've tried to access their site again, and all I get is an error sign. And I could have swore that they told me this was sock yarn. But no matter. I went and checked out some of the other companies that are branding and selling this particular kit as kind of their own. And they have similar write-ups, and they don't say this is sock yarn, but they do indicate that, at least for some of them, that the material is wool and that these yarns are hand dyed, and they give us some very interesting photos. As you can see right here, the pictures kind of are desirable. They give you a feel that these are in fact hand dyed yarns. Maybe they are. I'm kind of thinking probably not. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go through and I'm going to open this box day by day for you so you can see the yarn that comes in each section. And then for some of you who are interested, I'm going to go through the step that I take if a yarn is in question in terms of whether it's actually wool or if it's just your standard acrylic yarn that's being touted or described as wool, which is very common and happens quite regularly with yarns coming out of China and even in like the UK or Europe. Oftentimes they interchange the words yarn for wool, wool for yarn. That doesn't mean it's actually a natural fiber. It just means that they're referring to yarn. And unless specifically indicated, it's very much typically some kind of acrylic that they are referring to. Now, what caught my attention with this one is they mentioned that these yarns were hand dyed. We shall see. You can let me know what you think. But after that, again, I'm going to go through the steps that I take when I'm sort of curious to see what it is I'm actually looking at, whether it's a natural fiber, whether it's acrylic, whether it's a blend. Hello, my name is Sig. This is Essential Crochet, and you are always welcomed here. If you're interested in showing this channel a little support, all I ask is that you hit the subscribe bar, notification bell, or like buttons. Doesn't cost you a thing, and it really helps my channel move forward and allows me to make regular videos. Now, this is a pretty generic write-up. You're going to see something similar to this, which each company that happens to be selling this advent calendar, it tells us that it's the 2024 yarn advent calendar and that you're going to get 24 mini skeins. These skeins are supposed to be in a variety of colors and dyeing techniques. They tell you that the skeins are going to be hand dyed yarn and that you're going to have a very personalized experience with this box. They claim that this is for the thoughtful knitter and will add to a memorable holiday tradition. Let's see how memorable this box actually is. Okay, I'm going to open each one of these doors according to the day or in order. Now, this box makes you hunt a little bit for the different days you might be opening this up. So we're going to go to day 1. And I'm given this gray. Now, the only thing I'm seeing with this that makes it sort of kind of like what you might expect to find on a mini skein is the fact that it's not wrapped up in your standard skein. It's more of a hank. So this is something I'm going to have to wind myself. And quite frankly, there really doesn't seem to be a lot of it here. So they're telling us this is mini. I can't even, I don't know. I'm looking at this and I'm going to have to weigh this, because if these are 10 grams, I'll be surprised. So I think we're looking at more micro skeins. So I've got the gray. Day 2, another kind of gray. This looks more like scrap yarn shoved into a little tray. 3, we got blue. Red. A kind of different color blue. White. So far, these are not looking anything close or anything similar to the images they gave us, which, in all honesty, doesn't really surprise me very much, but it's still quite disappointing. Yellow. Let's just open it like this. Black. Actually, I'm just going to go ahead and open the whole box because this is a little more tedious. I'm not seeing anything that looks hand-dyed or exciting or anything. I'll just go ahead and put these back in here. This is all pretty much the same yarn, just different colors. I'm going to just tell you right now, this is not hand-dyed. Doesn't even look close. And this is just, it's your standard, not even great quality acrylic. It's very soft. You might be able to pull it off as a DK, but really this comes in at like a light 4-weight, in my opinion. Let me pull out the scale and we'll see what these skeins weigh. So I've got it set up for grams. Wow, 6.5, 6.6 grams for the yellow. Let's try the gray. Oh yeah, 6 grams. This is terrible, guys. These are barely coming in at the 5-gram mark. I mean, this is like micro. I consider 10 grams to be micro, 20 grams to be minis. Some people will say 10 grams is actually mini, but that's really, really getting down there. And these are coming in at about 6 grams, maybe a little more, which really puts them solidly in the micro department. In fact, these seem to even have less yarn to them than the last of the advent calendar kits that I showed you, the other Amazon purchased one that said wool in big letters. And if you're interested in seeing that one, I'm going to have a link to that video down below. So now this one is actually 11 grams, so that's interesting. They're really quite all over the board, it seems, yeah? Let me grab another one and see what we got. Yeah, see, that one's 10. So bizarre. Let me try this one. That one says 10. So they're ranging typically anywhere from what seems to be approximately 6 grams to 10 grams. It doesn't seem to be much of a rhyme or reason. I wonder if these are just the ends from larger skeins. I don't know. Or if they just kind of eyeballed the length of the yarn for the advent calendars, because clearly they weren't weighing these pieces, or certainly not to a degree of accuracy. Okay, so here I have 3 scraps of yarn to show you what to expect, or at least what I expect when I'm testing a yarn that I'm not entirely sure about. So right here is that inexpensive, supposed to at best be DK, but I think it's the 4-weight acrylic yarn that came in this advent calendar. Next to it, I am going to show you the alpaca yarn. This is 100% alpaca, and you can see that it's kind of a twirl. And so what it is basically a fingering weight. So it's 2 strands of lace weight twisted together to create a fingering weight yarn, and you can see the difference in terms of size. Now, the next yarn I have is an actual sock weight yarn. And this is just going to be slightly thicker than a lace weight yarn. And this is a 75% merino with 25% of it from nylon. In a sock yarn, the nylon is added to give it a little bit of, just a little touch of stretch, but mostly it's put in there to add some additional strength to the fiber itself. So I'm going to start off with testing the alpaca. Now, so I've got my yarn, and for this I'm using a lighter, and I'm going to singe the tip of my yarn. Okay, so you see I put my lighter right there, right? And it singes the tip, and it has a real strong smell. So you can really smell that fiber burning, and it doesn't smell chemically or anything like that. It actually smells like fur singeing. So you kind of have that. And then what I'll do is I'll take it and I'll just pull on it a little bit, and you can see how the carbon from burning or singeing that wool just crumbles off in my fingers, right? It's just the carbon, it's just the ash. And you can see how the tips of the fiber, the wool, is just lightly darkened, right? Otherwise, it hasn't really been affected too much. You can see where the singeing occurred, but just below it in terms of the fiber, it's still pretty well intact. And it doesn't have any of the melting you might expect to see if you were actually doing something that had a synthetic fiber in it or to it. So now I'm going to come here and I'm going to show you what this blend looks like. So this is actually hand dyed. This is a hand dyed yarn, and it's a sock yarn. So it's going to be 75% merino and 25% nylon. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get my flame going. And you can already see that nylon, I just barely get close to it, and that nylon already starts to melt. So it's not really, I don't have to get very close, not like with the actual fiber here of the alpaca. And you can see where some of that melting has occurred from the nylon. But here again, if I take it and I just pull, I get the carbon from my yarn, but you can see that it holds together because it's really pretty much melted together is what it has. So you don't see any of the crumbling, but you do see a little bit of that melting happening. But you also, when looking at the fiber itself, you also see where the wool is just simply singed. And it's still in pretty good shape, except for some of those more darker areas where, you know, it's clearly got little threads of nylon going through it that are actually melting and, or rather melted and still kind of hanging in that fiber a little bit. So now I'm going to show you the acrylic. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put my flame away from it because acrylic doesn't take much heat near it at all before it starts to melt. Okay, so I'm going to bring this lighter in just near it. See, you can already see it's melting, and all it had was the heat. The whole thing just melts. That's all it does, is it just simply melts. And I didn't even have to touch it or come close. And then when I come to pull off that singed in, it doesn't even come off. It's just basically melted into a knot at the end of that fiber. So this is how I can tell. And this is what I do if I'm questioning the quality or the blend or the material of a fiber, or at least a fiber that I'm being told is a natural fiber like a wool, rather than a blend rather than straight up acrylic. Okay, guys, so I spent $30 on this kit. That included shipping. Was it worth the $30? No, not even close. Now, will I hold on to this and put this into my scrap bag? Because there will be times when I'll use bits and pieces of the variety of colors that were given to me. Absolutely. Otherwise, do I think it's a crap deal? Absolutely. Now, if you have a little extra money to spend and you have a young child who is just getting into working with yarn and you want to give them kind of a fun little open advent calendar thing that allows them a new little yarn every day. All right, if you want to spend $30, $40, maybe you can find it cheaper. Maybe you can find it for around $20. I'm certainly not going to judge you on that. You do you, but this is really quite expensive for what you get, and it's crap. In fact, the last advent calendar was actually better than this advent calendar. At least the yarn came already wound in a not a hank, but a skein. And each piece came individually wrapped in a little bag. And so there was a little more to it, and you can get it for a little less. Each skein was approximately 10 grams. Wasn't great, but I'm telling you right now that the actual yarn from the other one was actually better than the yarn in this one. This is pretty crappy. Do not buy it. In my never so humble opinion, I'm just going to say it. Don't buy it. Don't spend your money. It's garbage. And if you've already spent money on it, I'm sorry. If you disagree with my assessment, go ahead and put that comment down below and let me know why I'm wrong. All right, that's pretty much it. This is a short and sweet video. I just wanted to throw it out there. And I want to remind everyone to stay safe, stay creative, and have a most wonderful weekend. Bye-bye now.